a specific mentor in the business you were in before you started your new entrepreneurial startup that inspired you to do it?
Well, in the service business, mentorship is not that easy to get unless you are in SBA mentorship program, if you're a part of that. Because the company who can mentor you in the same business, they are one step removed, they're much larger. If they are much larger, they don't have time for you. They don't give you time on the day. Or if they have, you're not that large, you are a competition, or you will be soon. So they're not going to give you a trade secret, because we're not selling, we're not Xerox that we came up with something that you need, or come up with a Microsoft Office. So everybody is trying to sell the same business, the same kind of skill service. It was hard to get mentors. However, I had one, and mine was my first boss at NASA. And in a little while, when I was, at that crossroads, he told me when I left NASA and started working at Boeing, and I was still in contact with it. As I said, contact is very important. And he told me, do what you're best at. I said, I don't know. He said, you're good at both of them. Why don't you go, do it for your own? So that has stuck with me. So I will say, I will give him a lot of praise. I still do. Say he was a him that he really encouraged me to do it this way.
I guess in my first job, I had a mentor as well who was my boss. And I think the main things that I learned from him was really about, let me give a little background. He was a retired Army Green Beret who served in Vietnam. And the man was a lot about courage and valor, but he was really about values, ethics, and character. And I think I learned a lot about him in terms of business that, things like ethics and character really matter in the long run because, again, it's about, in the services business or any business, it's about your reputation, your name. If you become a company that loses that, one of the things he taught me, I guess, was that it takes a lifetime to build a solid reputation, but it takes about a minute to lose a reputation. And so that's one of the things that we always work on is ethics first. It may cost us money in the short term, but in the long term, it's going to pay off down the road because you don't want to be a firm that's known as someone who's less than, the highest ethical standards.
Now that I listened to the answer, no, you did the question right. No, I didn't have any mentor. It was just the opportunity, the market, everything was just fitting. There was no mentor for me.
I think Scott's point about leadership is key because doing the right thing is what leadership is about. Ethics, values, culture, whereas management, in contrast to leadership, management is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right thing. And you can't really learn leadership in a vacuum. You need mentors and relationships.
Yeah, one of the things that we do is my mentor, his name was Robert Feely. In fact, we actually have a leadership award at the company we give out every year, which is called the Robert Feely Leadership Award, and it's based on those parameters that we define.
Who's next? Go ahead.
How do you know that you were at that breaking point where you were just about to take that big plunge and go out and quit your job and go tell your wife and you're not longer employed? What conditions were there that made you take this big risk? I'll tell you my story. Mine was when after the company that I was working for was acquired by the large aerospace company. We were under a lot of pressure to make a software delivery, and I know that there were about 3 of us, and we worked all weekend and we worked all night on Sunday night. And what happened is we were drinking some coffee near the quote executive area of the building, and one of us forgot, it might have been me, to turn off the coffee maker. And so Monday morning, the coffee maker exploded and basically made a huge mess in the, quote, executive coffee room. However, we worked all weekend and probably put about 48 straight hours in and made the deliverable. But all we got on Monday afternoon was a memo telling us that we were no longer allowed to use the executive coffee room. At that point, I knew that the company was no longer the kind of company I wanted to work for, and that pushed me over the edge.
It's a function of several variables. My story, you already heard part of it. The market was very good. The money was there. But to get into more details, as a network engineer, one of the challenges I had every time I wanted to work on a project to build a network, I had to deal with multiple vendors, get them to come to our office, present to us what they have. The challenge, the problem with that process was, although most of them they offer a similar thing, but they use different acronyms to confuse the hell out of the buyer. And the process was 3-4 months. So I usually get Cisco, the other company, they come, they spend roughly 3-4 months just to identify the right solution. So I figured, why not just building a website, inviting all these telecom company, building a database, and get all these telecom company enter their product specs into this web-based account, and then our engine would get this information, normalize it, and stacking them up against each other for the IT buyers. So this way, you as an IT buyer, you could have gone to Telesman and say, I'm looking for a router that does this, support this kind of protocol, blah, blah, blah. Within seconds, since the database was populated by Cisco, Lucent, Nortel, you name it, when they existed those days. Within seconds, you could get all these products right next to each other, and then you could, there was a link called RFQ, request for code, or request for a proposal, and it automatically would go back to the company. And the moment we launched it, it was no-brainer. I remember the first check we got from Cisco before we even get the funding. $150,000 check came from Cisco. And that was the time I even didn't know how to price this out. I just came out a number out of my, and it worked. But when later on, when we realized the smaller company are on the equation besides Cisco, we had to come up with a more robust revenue model.
Next question.
I'm Yogesh Patel. I graduated from engineering school here, and I have a small systems integration company, and we just received our 8A certification from the government, so it's kind of targeted to people that have federal business. I was wondering, have you taken advantage of any of the SBA 8A certification type programs for federal business, and if so, how? I've had trouble getting my first 8A contract, so how should I go about that, and also participating in the Entrepreneurship program for the federal government?
We took Adnet to 8A. We graduated from 8A, and let me tell you that just getting an 8A does not give you a license, or does not guarantee you that you're going to get work. And it gives you some leverage. I know a lot of companies who got 8A and graduated from 8A without getting an 8A contract. So it also comes down to what you target, what you're looking for, what do you need the business plan, and who is your, if you're working in, I don't know which agency you're working at, I pick one, labor. And if you're trying to get an 8A contract at NOAA, that's not going to work. So you got to target the agency that you are in there, because that's where your first 8A work is going to come from where you are today. And you need to find a company which is there with graduating 8A or has graduated to them as your mentor. Because the one who's our 8A right now, they're not really interested in working with you, but the one who has graduated, those are the companies who want to hook up for that, because their contract is going to compete. They cannot bid that, so they need some a company that they can go with them and flip it over. So that's where I would start. But again, it comes down to having 8A helps, but there's no guarantee. It still comes down to marketing, knowing where the work is, contact, relationship, and again, the 8A works somewhat from every agency, but where you think you can get work. Just having 8A from as use the example, labor is not going to guarantee you work at NASA or NOAA. I would target the agency where I am.